Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. It is a beautiful, bright and sunshiny day here in mid-Michigan. We are in Zone 5B and my name is Soleil. And I'm going to take you around for a weekly garden tour. Today I thought it would be fun to take you out during the middle of the day so you could see what it was like when the sun is shining and we still have these beautiful sunshiny days. Fall's definitely approaching and we're even seeing some of the trees start to turn colors here, which is really early. But we've had strangely cool temperatures and we're about to get back up into the 90s, so plants are a little bit confused. All right, well, let's not delay any longer and take a look around the garden. Down over here you will see that our hibiscus are still giving us some beautiful blooms. We still have lots of buds, so I believe we'll be enjoying these for several more weeks to come. Everything over here is looking really nice and tidy. I've cleaned up some of the salvia in this garden bed and we're starting to just get a little bit of color on the sedums. And I have sedum quite a few different places around the garden. Now if you notice this brown spot over here, you remember we cut some viburnum shrubs back and they actually have tried to start to regrow. So I'm trying to still kind of take those out. You can see our pots are just overflowing with sedum. It's very pretty. I think this is called a moss sedum. It is a creeper and it grows in a lot of people's gardens, I think. But I happen to put it in the pots and it has just taken over. So I'm gonna have to pull that out soon for a little bit of autumn plantings, hopefully. And there back there we have a beautiful strawberry Sunday hydrangea. And if you recall, we've potted up these pots with lobelia from earlier this spring, both there and over here. And they are still looking quite lovely. They have lasted the whole season, which has been fantastic. Our alyssum along the ground here is also looking really pretty and it smells nice. And the basil is growing quite well despite the cold temperatures. The asparagus is putting up another fern at the end of the season here, and the fig has gotten really big, but no figs this year. From what I read, they take probably around 3 years to set fruit, so maybe next year or the year after I might start to get something. Well, during this time of the day, the lady becomes encased in shade. And it's a really nice tranquil setting. And we have the beautiful little lime hydrangeas surrounding her that look gorgeous. And then in front, for a little pop of color, we have that rainbow sensation Weigela. And you can see this giant mum is just covered in buds. And we're starting to see more and more mums opening, especially in the front garden. So we'll be showing you those soon. And this Pinky Winky looks beautiful. We almost have a layered effect here, like 2 tiers going on with this shrub this year. It'll be interesting to see whether that fills in or if next year it just becomes even more accentuated. But isn't the dianthus in the front of this border looking nice right now? It started popping color a lot better. Then we have some gorgeous phlox here that the bumblebees are enjoying. This is its second bloom of the season. Now I've seen a few yellow jackets around today and I just want to tell people that it seems lots of people are experiencing an overabundance of yellow jackets this year, so do be careful when you're out in the garden. Make sure that you're not getting anywhere near ground's nests or things like that. Just keep an eye out for bees that are coming and going. Aren't these pink berries looking beautiful now? I mean, they're really starting to actually show from further and further away as we get more and more of them getting larger and deepening in their color. I did come through and deadhead this geranium again. This geranium is the Boom Chocolata geranium, and I think that it's a really lovely contrast between the phlox and the strawberry sundae. Now the lighting is definitely kind of wonky because it is the middle of the day, and you'll see One of the things that I want to point out to you is kind of a drooping of the blooms on this hydrangea right here from the heat. This is not because they need water. We've had plenty of water. It's because of the heat of the midday, and so I'm not going to come through and water this today because I know that it will perk back up later on today. But I'm really happy with the blooms on this Strawberry Sunday hydrangea back here. They just continue to do better and better each year. So I'm pleased with that. It's slow going, but well worth the wait. This hydrangea looks beautiful right now in the sunshine, doesn't it? Just glowing that lime green. This garden area has continued to thrive and just look beautiful. I've enjoyed it all year. The only thing that it lacks a little bit is in winter structure, but we've started building that a little bit by adding in 2 hellebores. A couple years ago we added in a boxwood up front. It's very slow growing because it is in part shade here. But so those things will remain and hopefully help add a little bit of interest down here at the end of this garden bed, because we do have the arborvitaes along the back over here, but didn't really have anything at this end. So that will be really nice. We'll also begin to build some structure with the stems of this hydrangea as well. Just look at this pieris, isn't that beautiful? It keeps getting better and better each week as the bloom stalks continue to grow. They actually call them racemes. That's the technical term for that type of budding structure. So you can also just see how different the lighting is this time of day because the sun is overhead, how much shade we actually get over in this garden area, which is really, really nice. Isn't that Pinky Winky gorgeous? Such beautiful coloring on that this time of year. It's just worked its way up from the bottom and now it's getting almost to the top of some of the bloom spikes. As we come around the front, this maple tree is looking beautiful at the base of the Pinky Winky. And then behind it, the grass comes out and just glows in the sunlight. Even though the blooms on this oak leaf hydrangea over here are starting to turn brown, I actually think it's a really beautiful look. And I'm going to try to leave them on and see how it does. I'm not sure how it will fare because I haven't had big blooms during like winter or with the snow maybe load on them over the winter time. So if you grow these in a winter climate and have had large blooms, have they bent over or broken off and done damage, or do you just leave them on and they've done well for you? I'm curious what people's different experience has been with those. Now I did add a couple of phlox up in the container on top of this stump just for a little bit of color. I got these on sale at the Countryside Greenhouse when I was there. They have their perennials and such going on sale, and so they were just $3.99 a piece. They are hardy down to a zone 3, so I'm hoping that they will winter over in this pot and then grow on and be there for next year as a perennial. Everything's just looking nice and full and lush in this shady garden bed right now. You can see there's actually some fungus starting to grow on the tree stump. So that's really starting to break down the woody material. And this hydrangea is still just slowly but surely putting on its blooms. I tell you what, these are very, very slow. And I think some of it's just because of the shade in this area. And I do have plans to eventually take more of this buckthorn out, but we did take some of the branches down. It definitely has allowed more light in during the day, but it's still a nice dappled sunlight. I think it will also allow some more rain to penetrate down into the ground in here, so it's not quite as dry either. This spot right here looks beautiful in the dappled sunlight as well, with the greens and whites and the limey colors together. Isn't that pretty? Such beautiful blooms. Now the other little hottie hydrangea is also still working on its blooms. And of course you can tell this time of day, both of them are in quite a bit of shade, so they don't get hot direct sunlight, which I think also is preventing them from being quite as strong of bloomers. But I think next year they're going to be much better because their roots will have set in, since this is really their first full year in the garden. We have some new blooms coming out. The buds are opening on the hydrangea we just planted. This is the Let's Dance Can Do variety. And that's going to bring a nice pop of color to this area as they open. There's still lots of blooms on it from growing on in the nursery. The buds on this pieris just caught my eye as I was looking through the garden as they glow away from their beautiful leaves. Isn't that pretty? It just glows and is kind of echoing off of and bouncing off of the limey green of these autumn moon hydrangeas. And I get a lot of comments about how my hydrangeas don't look like they have any bug damage. So I'm just going to give you a close-up over here of one, because it's the end of the summer and I definitely get it too. So here it is for those of you who think that my hydrangeas are always perfect. They are not. I have some of the same issues that you guys do. Maybe they're just different times of year. And every year in the garden is different. But that said, I still think this is one of my favorite garden beds in terms of the combinations that are planted and how well they're doing together. The only thing that needs to be tweaked in here right now in my mind is this long row of small hostas, because they do get a lot of sun down here at the end, and so this time of year is when they start to look rather shoddy and just don't look very healthy. They'll come back next year. There's nothing really wrong with them, but I don't really like that look. They're kind of bedraggled, so I would like to, replace those with something that needs a little bit more sun. And I'm not sure exactly what that will be yet, but it will be fun to find it. Definitely something that will be a little bit more low growing, although at the same time that firelight hydrangea should get a little bit taller and begin to block more of the southern sun from them. And that hydrangea is looking really, really pretty right now with the penstemon behind it, isn't it? And those colors. Such beautiful contrast. And over here, this corner is a little bit dark right now because of the shade. But it's just beautiful to watch how the sun kind of comes down through and lights up different areas of the garden. And you can get different glimpses of different vistas. You can just see the pinky winky shining all the way down there because the sunlight is spotlighting it right now. The cannas are giant, you guys. They have taken over the pots. We've gotten blooms on them. It's been fantastic. The hummingbird loves the blooms as well. I'm not going to save the entire pots. We'll have to take those out and kind of chop them up into some smaller pieces to overwinter. I just don't have room for something that large. This little lime is looking fantastic. It really filled out, and I'm super pleased with how it's looking in this garden bed. Last year it looked a little wimpy, but it's getting better every single year. And we have blooms starting on this pure joy sedum. It's a really nice kind of towards the front of the border plant because it stays nice and compact, but it has a really light pink color bloom to it, as opposed to the autumn joy sedum, which is a much deeper color. You can see we're starting to get a little bit more intense color from the hydrangeas over here. We have the Diamond Rouge hydrangea on the right, and then we have the Firelight on the left. And the rose has gone over a bit, so I'll have to come through and deadhead that. I did come through and deadhead my daisy here. Maybe we'll get more blooms on that. But speaking of a plant that does duty all year round, I would just continue to point out this Roseanne geranium that the bees are enjoying right now, which has just put on a show all season long. And the pollinators absolutely love it, so that's just an even bigger bonus. Well, I need to do some deadheading on this butterfly bush, but I think the colors are very beautiful, going very well with that geranium Roseanne. And the butterflies love it, the bees love it, and I can't wait to see it when this sedum starts to color up. I'm hoping to see the two of them together in bloom along with that Firelight hydrangea back behind them as well. This part of the garden really feels like it's starting to come together a little bit better because we're having differing heights and textures. We have some repetition going on. And here's where you see that the daisy is really pushing those new buds. We still don't have any bloom on our Seven Sun flowers at the end of the pool, so I'm just going to spin around and show you. They are very tall up above the hibiscus at the end of the pool down there, but they are just beginning to open now. I'm afraid that because the next few days are going to get up into the 90s that the blooms may not last very long, but I hope to be able to show them to you when they do bloom. Now, Autumn Joy, it might be an oldie but goodie. It's just so reliable. I still recommend it to anybody who wants something good for their pollinators. Just look at all of the bees on this. It's just like when you look at the Millennium Alliums or some of the other small growing alliums. The bees just congregate right to it. And then isn't this a pretty scene with the maple and the hydrangea blooms and the fountain behind it? I did decide I am going to plant these limelights and try them out in my garden, even though they are kind of flappy. I think that they might be okay in the place that I've selected for them, so we're going to give it a go. So hopefully I'll be able to take you along for that planting day. And we have more butterfly bushes over here. These are the Pugster Pink variety. And these hydrangeas are beginning to brown a little bit, but they have really hung in there. I think I'm going to clip a few more blooms to dry. I've taken one bouquet so far. I think I'm going to get another one before they start to really brown out here, because with those high temperatures, I think that's probably potentially going to happen. Over here, the spireas are still blooming on either side of the entryway back into the garden from here. And the pot with the Angelina sedum is looking pretty. And the sedum is putting on a really nice tinge of red, which I think is beautiful. And look at the deep dark color on this berry white hydrangea. Isn't that awesome? I mean, it is from tip to toe, just smothered in color. Such a deep, dark, and dramatic color. And over here, we have lots of mums that are budding up. So you can see this one, the buds are probably going to be opening, I'm thinking this week. And one of the exciting things I'm seeing back behind this hydrangea is the clematis. This is the first time it has really bloomed for me. And boy, is it being a prolific late bloomer this season. This is the Comtesse de Bouchard. And I showed you this last week as it was beginning to open, but it is still coming with more blooms. Boy, is that gorgeous. And it just looks so pretty with these little verbenas floating in front of it. It'll be wonderful when this can-do hydrangea gets larger and, you know, can take more presence in this area in front of the fence. We have another giant mum right here with lots of buds all over it. We're just going to get a profusion of colorful mums this year. Not that we didn't last year, but they definitely require a little bit of editing once they perennialize. They will spread, so they're not overly aggressive or anything, but you can easily divide them and they're easy to pull also. So you can see also our rave hydrangea bloom right here is having a little bit of a droopy moment because it's so hot today and sunny. At least its bloom is. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's hydrated. It will be fine. And this corner is looking really nice and bright. I know usually in the evening this is all in the shade, so it's hard to tell what it looks like during the day, and I thought I would just show it to you now as well. The beautiful bright blooms on this Mr. Goodbud sedum. If it had more sun, it would stay even more compact and not splay out like this, but it does get enough shade so that it splays out. And I did not do the Chelsea chop on it this year. Well, here in the front garden, the strawberry hydrangea looks beautiful. Strawberry Sunday. Nothing much has changed over here, so everything's just kind of looking lovely. And, you know, holding strong at the end of the season, which is good. The worst thing right now would be for something to go over. And we have seen so many goldfinches, you guys, out here in this garden bed because of the coneflowers. You know, planted en masse like this, it really helps to attract them. And they just come in and land on them and they eat the seed heads off and then they go about their business. But they look so beautiful when they do. And the bees, of course, are all over the phlox in this garden as well. And I feel really lucky that we've gotten a good bloom out of them, given that the deer have definitely browsed a lot. Now you'll see we're having even more color from the mums in this garden bed, which have started to bloom. But lots of color still in this area. I know that these coneflowers will start to look a little bit ragged. That's kind of what happens this time of year as the flowers die back and the seeds begin to dry out. But that's when they become the best food for the birds. So I try and leave them just as long as I possibly can stand it so that the birds can get a bunch of seed before the cold weather starts to set in. Just look at all of the color from the Gara over here too. Isn't that beautiful? Just amazing numbers of blooms and color and strappy, wispy stems. I'm just shocked at how much growth this juniper has put on this year. This is supposed to be almost as wide as it will get. It might get about a foot wider. But it should continue to grow straight up. This is a skyrocket, so it's a columnar, really tall growing plant. And I've just been really happy with how well it's done here. It's been quite impressive, pest-free, all of that. It's also very deer-proof, and I will provide a great deal of winter interest this year as well. The taller it gets, you know, just the more structure and more established the garden feels. And then we have lots more of that Gara here. That's the Belize pink Gara. And here we have some orange blooms on our mums, really starting to begin to open. But you can just see, look at all of the buds on that. Holy moly, this is going to be, they will look like giant pumpkins on the end of this garden bed. The sun garden bed though looks amazing right now too. I haven't come through and done any cutbacks on this yet. I've been focusing on other areas of the garden for cleanup because I still think this one looks pretty good in terms of priorities. Do you see the monarch up there? So pretty. We've gotten quite a few butterflies through the garden this year, all sorts of different types, which I just love. It means you're doing something right with your gardening when you see lots of life. Even if it is deer or rabbits or squirrels or chipmunks digging up your bulbs or eating your flowers, that's a good thing. That means you are part of the environment. You've created something that helps to sustain life. I love how the tinges of pink in the sedum are starting to come out. It's pretty much in that same blush color as the Bobo hydrangea. As the sunlight filters through the blooms of the Bobo hydrangea, you can really see kind of the delicateness of their petals, while at the same time looking at it and thinking that is a really, really tough plant to make it through the heat and the drought and everything that summer, winter, fall, and spring throw at it. These coneflowers get protection from the sun during the hottest part of the day because they face north on the side of the tree. So they actually look really, really healthy. They bloom a little bit later than the others. And they're a beautiful, beautiful color right now. So they have a ways to go before they become bird food. Now, just to give you a sense of what this garden looks like from a little bit further back. It's just very, very colorful right now. Obviously the alliums are gone over. Some of the salvia are starting to go over, so I will be coming through and doing deadheading on those. It's probably the third time I will deadhead the salvia. I mean, they have gone through so many bloom cycles for me this year. It's been incredible. Sometimes I get 3, maybe even a 4th set of blooms, and we will be cutting back after the 3rd set of blooms. That's where we're at with, say, this flower right here. That's in desperate need of cutback. I'll leave the millennial allium seed heads on for a little bit because they do make really cute little structures in the garden and look pretty. But then I will cut those back as well. Well, over here in the porch in the shade garden, we've had a volunteer tomato seed itself amongst the impatiens. I'm just leaving it. It's kind of fun to watch and see what it does here. It does get morning sunshine, so it's possible it'll do something. Probably not enough days left in the growing season though. Here's a close-up of the Cape Lookout hydrangea blooms with all of the different kind of rainbowish colors that they have this time of year. They're a beautiful muted tone. It looks like my azalea is holding off for blooming from now, but I'm wondering what it will do when the temperatures hit the 90s again. We're starting to see some of the blooms on this firelight hydrangea turn the deepest color that they can. And next to it, the Let's Dance Can Do hydrangea is opening more blooms as we speak. That's going to be a really nice combination, I think. Everything took really well after our transplants last week. So I'm happy with how they've turned out. And as I mentioned, this hellebore will begin to grow kind of towards the light. So it will sort of move its leaves forward and a little bit more to the left. But everything's really happy and healthy in here, which is all I can ask. And I do want to still divide this hellebore right here. That's still in my plans this year, but I'm waiting until after we get this kind of real intense heat. Hopefully after that we're going to see some cooler temperatures for a good week at least, and I'll kind of keep my eye on that 10-day forecast to see what it looks like. I did pull out another spirea that was down here to open up the space for these baby hellebores, which are evergreen and I think will look better than the spirea did. And I may replace it with something else in that area. But the hostas that you see in the back are really, really giant hostas. They just are not filling up the area because the deer got them. There was I don't know, maybe a month ago I forgot to spray and they came in and they got them. So that's that. But that's okay. I do have some plans to change out some things in this garden bed, not a whole lot, but just a couple of things that I think will make it look even nicer and provide a little bit more interest in this area. Now, some of the reasons why it doesn't look all that interesting right now is because you have to wait sometimes for things to put on height. So I have this barberry, which should be getting taller, and as it puts on new growth, you see it has a nice different color. And this viburnum over here should also be getting up to like 6 feet at least. And so that will be up above all of these low growth sumacs. So having the differences in height will make a big difference as well in terms of the interest that we have over here. But I am hoping to add a little bit more color. Still really enjoying this Verbena bonariensis right here. It's gotten as tall as me. Hopefully some of the seeds will set for next year and we'll find some scattered around the garden that we can use. And our helenium are still blooming over here. So that's wonderful. Well, everyone, that brings us to the last garden, which is the bird bath garden, which is just a very classical area. And I think it's looking really nice actually right now. Probably the best it's looked all season for whatever reason. I finally got around to deadheading the hostas in front, which really cleans it up quite a bit and just makes it feel nice. Well, thanks everybody so much for joining me today out in the garden. I hope you're enjoying your day and that September has started off well for you. Take care and we'll see you next time. Bye!